Blueprints may be the very best game I have ever played. It manages to create one of the most uniquely compelling experiences that I have ever had the pleasure of enjoying in my years and years of playing video games. I think inherently a lot of the internet feels in that same manner, but I don't think that means that it's perfect. Blueprints is not a perfect game. It's just very, very close. Let's talk about it. Hi there, I'm Tino from The Escape Effect, and today we'll be talking about a game called Blueprints. Before even starting this video, I do have to say, you should try Blueprints. It's an incredible game that I will eventually be talking a little bit of trash on, but I genuinely recommend it so dearly. I have had so much fun, and I think the experience is best enjoyed fully and completely blind, so this review will be spoiler minimal. But with that being said, let's get started. Blueprints was created by the indie game studio Doug Bomb, primarily spearheaded by one Tando Ross, and was released April 10th, 2025. It took him 8 years to create from scratch, starting in late 2016, being his first ever video game project. This was the first time he ever touched the game engine, and that's crazy. Blueprints is a roguelike adventure puzzle game where you explore the mansion of your late grandfather and are tasked to find the very secretive, hidden 46th room. And if you do, you'll inherit the man's incredible fortunes. Every day you go into the mansion, the layout is completely decided by you, going up to a door and picking one of the 3 possible rooms that could be behind that door. Some rooms will have a certain amount of resources, or they could be a shop, or they could just have cool stuff and puzzles for you to figure out. It's an escape room that you have to create yourself every single time that you play. A puzzle that you have to build each time that you go in. That's just only one of the parts of the game. Every single one of those rooms that you might uncover might have a puzzle, and that puzzle might tie into something else that's important. Figuring out what goes where is part of the fun. Some of the puzzles and blueprints are incredibly simple, while on the other hand, some of them are so insanely multifaceted they'll make your head spin. But the cool thing is you always have time to figure these things out as long as you stay in the same room. See, the game uses the step system. Every time you enter any room, you'll have 1 step detracted. That means every time you go forward, you use up a step, which seems fair, but that also applies to going backwards. There's this inherent need for confidence. You need to be sure about every step you take. And that's because once you run out of steps, your day is over. Everything in the game resets, including all of the rooms you just drafted, and you have to start over from the beginning at the very front of the mansion. At first, it kind of seems like a throwaway feature that just forces you to reset runs to start over. But once you start thinking about it, the step system is a puzzle within its own. The very first major puzzle of the game. Well, maybe not the very first, but one of the big major puzzles of the game requires you to go from one area to another area and then back to the first area. At first, I thought it was completely impossible to have that many steps to do all that back and forth action. But once you figure it out, once it starts to click, oh my god, is that an incredible moment. All of this, to me, is really quite similar to a book called Maze. Sidetrack, let's talk about Blueprints' inspirations before we go any further. While Blueprints is obviously inspired by puzzle gaming masterpiece The Witness in its design, and atmospheric journeys like Gone Home in its tone, it also takes extreme direct inspiration from a book titled Maze: Solve the World's Most Challenging Puzzle, written by Christopher Manson. In Maze, your objective is to find the quickest route to room 45. You open the book to page 1 and are shown a series of doors, each one of them labeled with a page number. You pick out one of the doors and you go to that page and find a new series of doors, which if you follow correctly will eventually lead you to the magical page 45. Your goal was to see what was the least amount of steps that you had to take in order to make it to that page, which to me sounds very much like the plot of Blueprints. There was a competition, a contest to win $10,000 that was released with the book in October 1985, which not a single person won. Even after extending the deadline by over a year, the prize money ended up having to be split among 12 contestants who figured out the right path to room 45, but not the correct solution to a hidden riddle that was never discovered inside of the book. The solution to maze isn't a mystery anymore. We kind of did crack that code, but we are aware that there are other secrets inside of that book which haven't been discovered yet. Which makes so much sense that Blueprints would take inspiration from something like this because of the fact that Blueprints has so many cool mysteries. Even after 50 hours of playing this game, I have still not even cracked the surface of how many secrets and how much in-depth stuff is all over this game. And I think that is the coolest thing ever. While I'm on the topic, we might as well talk about some of the other inspirations that brought Blueprints to the masses. Some other more tangible inspirations are things such as Masquerade, another book, this time being a traditional picture book that hid a puzzle inside of 15 painted illustrations that, when decoded, would lead one to an actual buried treasure, that buried treasure being a golden hair. There was an entire controversy regarding the fact that the winner of this competition probably cheated, and there's a whole story about it that I'd highly recommend checking out. Another little inspiration is actually Magic the Gathering. Yeah, Tanda Ross funded this entire project and this entire video game using a Magic the Gathering website called Mythic Spoiler that he himself created. It was basically an aesthetic way to show off your different card collections. And some have said in the past that the idea of pulling out cards from a deck is very similar to the RNG-based system of drafting different rooms inside of the manor. And that's what we'll talk about next. In order to do that, we'll be talking about my favorite rooms in Blueprints. I can't talk about all the cool stuff in Blueprints without mentioning the Rumpus Room. My first time entering a Rumpus Room was a magical experience. I was so completely unprepared for what would await me. Once I start drafting, I see this bright colored room, almost clown-like, and see that it will offer me a crazy amount of coins, and so I enter. After walking around after receiving my coin and looking for any puzzles, I see him, Alzara, a fortune teller of great power, and inside I insert a coin, and this happens.
And, as it was foretold, I am awakened at the sound of a dropping coin. You find yourself face to face with the great Alzara. And I suspect you wish me to look into your future. The image is becoming clear. I see a boy standing on a shore of white sand.
Every time you insert a coin into the Alzara Great Fortune Teller, he will appear and he will give you cryptic clues about certain things happening in the game. These are some of the few cutscenes that you get to watch during the game, and all of the cutscenes in Blueprints have to be earned, and every one of them is so cool and so incredibly cinematic. Okay, next up is everyone's favorite, the parlor. The parlor is designated with this little jigsaw puzzle on its draft, which means that it's a self-contained puzzle entirely solvable within the room itself. There is a page inside of the room that will tell you the exact rules. There will always be at least one box which displays only true statements. There will always be at least one box which displays only false statements. Only one box has a prize within. The other two are always empty. Using only those simple rules, that madman has created an astounding 150 puzzles. The reason I love the parlor so much is because it offers a respite from all the three-dimensional 4D chess style of puzzles that the game has to offer. It's all self-contained, you get to just finish it out. And I know it's kind of nerdy, but I love logic puzzles, and the parlor is just one big logical puzzle. It makes sense most of the time. It gets really hard near the end, I'm gonna be honest, but it makes sense. Alright, one more room, but a warning. These are gonna be spoilers ahead for a room that's not super involved to the rest of the game, but is only available after reaching room 46. You can skip to this time on the screen if you don't want to be spoiled. Do you remember that whole thing I mentioned earlier about the creator of Blueprints absolutely loving maze? Well, he asked the creator of Maze, Christopher Manson, to make some rooms for blueprints, and he did. The gallery features the art of Christopher Manson on the walls and is an integral part of the puzzle. And room 8 that you unlock after beating the gallery is made entirely by Christopher Manson and is a puzzle designed by him. Both of these are inspired by the book Maze, and I think that must have been the coolest moment ever for the creator of Blueprints. Just real childhood dream kind of thing. But now, what you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about the problems of blueprints. In order to understand my biggest complaint with blueprints, we must first speak about the concept of RNG. RNG stands for random number generation. It was a term coined up by fans of tabletop role-playing games to refer to the fact that the different outcomes of their gameplay were decided by the generation of random numbers. Randomness in video games inherently creates variety. It's not a bad thing to have a little randomness in a game. It keeps things fresh. Every time that you play, it makes things feel a little different. But the RNG in Blueprints inherently contradicts with your ability to finish the puzzles that it sets out for you. Everything in Blueprints requires you to be good at the drafting part. If you have come up with a solution for a puzzle but don't have access to that room on that specific run, you don't get to input that code. You don't get to do that puzzle. You just have to keep hoping that on the next run you do find that specific room. I've heard it be referred to as a game that's 90% luck and 10% puzzle. And while I find that to be a little bit of an unfair comparison, and I don't think that's entirely accurate, I understand why some players feel that way. A lot of my best runs in Blueprints have been by chance. They haven't been fabricated. I wasn't in control. I happened to get the right items and the correct things, and that's what helped me and propelled me forward to get to that room 46. I think the best way to explain it is like this. Blueprints is one of the most fascinating escape rooms ever made that just happens to force you to do a few push-ups before every puzzle. Now, some people love doing push-ups. Push-ups are great. You get buff, some good calisthenics, but some others kind of prefer to not to. They would just rather do the puzzle. It is what it is. It's part of the game, and it makes sense why it's there, but it can just feel a little tedious. Now, I do want to make it clear, when I'm talking about the RNG in Blueprints, I'm not only referring to the drafting of rooms, I'm also referring to the inherent RNG in what is found inside of those rooms. The items and which ones you encounter during your playthrough are completely randomized. Runs are completely destroyed if you don't find certain items in time, if you don't get the proper amount of keys, or if you don't find a hammer, or a shovel, or a metal detector. There are also some items that I just find significantly too rare, such as battery packs and wrenches. I have seen a singular wrench in my entire run of playing Blueprints. I think that's just going a little too far. Another issue that I have with the game is the story. And the fact that I don't get it. Maybe that's just me. I think this is a personal problem, but I have actively been trying to understand what is going on a deeper level my entire playthrough. And in all honesty, I'm lost. I'm so lost. It is as complex and cryptic as something like the Dark Souls series. In both of those games, you're given a task, and it's a super fun task, and there's a bunch of other stuff that is going around the world that has connections to your task that you find in notes or short cutscenes. The only issue is, just like Dark Souls, in all the time I've played, it just doesn't really feel like it matters. For every time that I've read something inside of this game, every note, every newspaper clipping, every letter, I have written a short summary inside of the journal that I keep specifically for the game. And I haven't found a use for any of it. There isn't a single thing inside of my journal that has clicked or made sense. I think there's a good chance that's most likely my fault. Actually, I think there's a very high chance that all of these things are important and I just don't get it. But at the end of the day, I just kind of feel like I'm wasting my time a little bit. Maybe that's just a skill issue. So yeah, I think that the biggest issue in Blueprints is the fact that you're not always going to be the one in control. A lot of the factors that decide whether or not you have a successful day just simply aren't up to you, and I don't really feel like that's always fair. I do want to mention though that you are capable of being good at this game. There is room for improvement, and I am significantly better at having big successful days than I ever was when I first started. but that doesn't change the fact that some days I just feel like I'm getting screwed over by RNG. But that's all from me. That's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for making it through to the end. It means so much to me. If you enjoy this style of content, feel free to give us a like, maybe even a subscribe, and also comment down below what you liked about Blueprint. I know there's so much discourse to be had about a game of so much depth. Other than that, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Toodles.